The biggest winner in the big game could be you, thanks to BetMGM. The king of sportsbooks is offering new customers a chance to score $158 in bonus bets instantly. That's right, instantly. Just download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code Vegas58. Then place a $5 moneyline wager on the big game. You'll receive $158 in bonus bets instantly, regardless of your wager's outcome. Don't miss your opportunity to cross the goal line on the money line as pro football's top teams clash for the championship. Can't be in Vegas for the big game? Then bring the big game excitement to you with the king of sportsbooks. BetMGM and GameSense reminds you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. Iowa only. New customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-BETS-OFF. That's 1-800-BETS-OFF.
In 2005, two brothers hit the road to chase demons and fight monsters. After 15 years, they made television history and built a community of dedicated and lasting fans. I'm Rob Benedict. I played God, a.k.a. Chuck Shirley.
And I'm Richard Speight Jr., and I played the Archangel Gabriel, a.k.a. the Trickster, a.k.a. Loki. And in later years, I stepped behind the camera to direct a bunch of episodes.
Though we've been involved with the series for years and multiple seasons, we never sat down and watched the entire show.
Until now. Rob and I are going episode by episode, watching each and every one. And we're diving in with the folks who made the show to bring you an insider's point of view and some great behind-the-scenes stories from the writers, producers, crew, and actors.
And along the road, we're becoming fans. We've heard you saying it for years, and we finally get what all the excitement is about.
We'll definitely be hitting on some spoilers, so you better be watching with us or look out.
This show holds up after all this time and deserves to be watched and rewatched. Thank you for joining our journey and listening to Supernatural Then and Now. Hey, everybody, it's Rob Benedict.
And this is Richard Speight Jr.
And we're talking about Season 4, Episode 10, Heaven and Hell.
A lot of people, when they hear Rob and Richard together, they go, well, that's heaven and hell.
Exactly. And we know which one's which.
We do.
Picking up where the previous episode left off.
What are you doing? Are you summarizing?
Sorry.
How about announcing it to people? Don't blindside them with a summary.
Sorry.
They're going to think you're talking off the cuff. They're like, what's he prattling on about? Get to the summary, having no idea that you're actually summarizing it.
Sorry.
All right.
I was doing what heaven might do, and now you're doing what hell might do. You know what I mean?
If hell is the more organized one, then yes, you're right.
Chaos.
Ladies and gentlemen, here's Rob Benedict doing the summary.
And so, no. Let's stop. How are you, Rich? You doing good?
Good, Bobo. And yourself?
Oh, great. Real great. I'm just excited. Thank you. I'm excited to, to get into this and find out what the episode was about.
I mean, there's a lot of ways to skin that cat, but one of the ways we've found effective is to summarize it.
Yeah. Well, should I do that now?
Why not?
Okay. Picking up where the previous episode left off, Sam and Dean are in a standoff with Castiel and Uriel about what to do with Anna. The angels want her dead. So they attack the Winchesters, but then disappear in a flash of bright light. And the boys find Anna in the adjacent room, who has used her own blood to draw a sigil on a mirror, which sent the angels away. Sam and Dean, Ruby, and Anna hide out at Bobby's place. They finally get to use that room, that safe room.
Yeah, man.
Anna speaks about a vague memory of a different father who was abusive. The boys bring in the psychic Pamela Barnes, she's back, to try and help. It is revealed that Anna is a fallen angel who surrendered her grace to become human. Sam is able to track down where Anna's grace might be, an old oak tree in Kentucky. The four of them travel there only to discover that it is gone. Suddenly, Anna can hear angels talking. She says that if she isn't turned over to the angels, Dean will be sent back to hell. Later that night, Anna tells Dean a little more about why she wanted to be human and that she forgives him for what he did in hell. They kiss and then ultimately make sweet love in the back of the Impala. Meanwhile, Ruby meets up with Alistair. She offers to trade the location of Anna in exchange for letting her and the Winchesters go. Alistair doesn't go for it, and he takes her captive, and he tortures her. Uriel appears to Dean in a dream and shows him he holds Anna's grace in a vial around his neck. Uriel offers Dean an ultimatum. Back at Bobby's, Uriel and Castiel arrive to take Anna. It's either her or Sam. Suddenly, Alistair and an injured Ruby appear to take Anna. It's a showdown, angels versus demons. A fight ensues, and the Winchesters are on the sidelines. Anna takes back her grace from Uriel in the melee. She becomes a blinding light and disappears. Alistair disappears in the process too, and Castiel and Uriel leave. Later, Sam and Dean are sharing some beers and reflecting on the events of the episode. In an emotional confession, Dean reveals that after years of torture in hell, he broke. He got off the rack and tortured other souls.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about this summary? Not much, but at one point you said Anna's grace. In this sentence, Sam was able to track down
Anna's grace.
where Anna's grace might be.
Okay,
and
here we go.
Anna's grace. And ironically, in season 15, the character of Lilith is brought back to the screen by actress Anna Grace Barlow.
Well, there you go. Thank you for that, Rich. We could have saved that for fun facts, but hey, it's right here.
Well, I would have forgotten.
So listen, if you remember from the last episode, we really loved the pieces. We didn't necessarily love the whole thing together. I tend to feel a little bit the same about this. I feel like maybe I enjoyed this episode a little bit more. I'm curious if it was a mid-season finale. At any rate, that last scene with Sam and Dean was amazing. Both of the actors are amazing. Jensen's work in that scene is so unreal. And it was good to finally find out what happened in hell for him. Yeah. Again, continuing excellent work by Julie McNiven. Yeah. And I love the standoff between angels and demons. Who's the actor who plays the creepy Alistair?
Oh, Mark Ralston.
He is so good and so creepy. You know, all of it. I love the pieces. It just, as overall as an episode, it didn't all add up as like home run to me.
And I couldn't agree more. And it's almost like I can't put my finger on it because every scene is engaging. Every performance is engaging. Mm-hmm. Every moment, there are seminal moments in this episode that are reflected back on by fans, and you know the Anna Dean scene, obviously monumental. The Dean confession about what he did in hell with Sam by his side scene is iconic. Yeah, I know we use that term, but it really is just a unbelievable moment of performance and great writing and great shooting. It's just a culmination of a lot of great work by a lot of people, but especially Jensen. And Robert Wisdom, he's always phenomenal.
Amazing.
Misha's great.
Misha's
I love
always
this creepy Castiel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, creepy Castiel is my favorite Castiel. I had no idea that Castiel was such a powerful creep. And man, he's way more interesting as a powerful creep. Like, it's really cool watching him be mean and threatening and them kind of being scared around him. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So
and the fight between the angels and demons is great. You know, all the pieces are great. Pamela Barnes being back was fun.
Pamela Barnes is back. That was really cool to see Tracy Dinwiddie back.
Yeah. But I guess it's
Genevieve is great as always. Like doing
Genevieve
her thing
is great.
So good in the episode.
A torture scene was tough to watch.
That torture scene is so intense.
Yeah.
You know, with Mark Ralston and Genevieve just acting their faces off. It's so intense. It's so grisly. It's like a feature film level sequence. And for some reason, and I can only say for me, I think it's just too much packed into an episode.
Yeah.
So it was just more than I could absorb.
I've got my beard already. I know who it is now.
Huh.
And it's a reference that only you'll understand, I think. Captain Lou Albano.
Wow, Captain Lou.
It's too much beard. And he had it all in a little, Captain Lou Albano, if you ever watched Cyndi Lauper videos from back in the day, he was like her sidekick in her videos. And he's big guy with a big, huge beard that he wrapped in a little rubber band at the bottom of the beard. All the beard was wrapped into a rubber band. And that's too much beard for that rubber band. It's too much beard.
Too much beard. That's a really funny and smart review because it is too much. I wonder who I would put in that. I know exactly who. In classic Robin Rich, keeping with our dramatically different references that exist in our head. My beard is going to William Lee Golden. William Lee Golden is definitely the too much beard. As I don't have to tell you, the audience, that William Lee Golden is a founding member of the Oak Ridge Boys.
Okay,
and he was the furriest of the Oak Ridge Boys. He had a huge beard. He was always unkempt and scraggly, upsetting my mother every time she saw the Oak Ridge Boys. Because the other Oak Ridge Boys were very clean cut. but not William Lee Golden. His beard was all over the joint, and he really stood out in that crisp, clean quartet, the Oak Ridge Boys, which, by the way, Elvira, I mean, go back and dust off that one, or Come On In. Just a beautiful, like, toe-tapping country number. A lot of hits. My Baby was made in the USA, or My Baby is American-made, born and bred in the USA. The Oak Ridge Boys knew how to turn out the hits.
God, I love how country you get when you start talking
But William Lee Golden, Mr. Golden.
I honestly,
had a hell of a beard.
Too
much beard, William Lee Golden, too much beard.
I give our beard reviews for this episode the Kenny Loggins.
And a Stapleton.
Yeah,
because they're good.
And Stapleton.
These are good.
They're good beards.
I think you nailed it, though, with the too much beard. So we're going with Captain Lou and William Lee Golden.
Yeah, too much beard. I'm happy about that. I really am. It's almost not a bad review. It's
not. I mean, weird. There's so much greatness. There could have been maybe these 2 episodes should have been 3. And I want people to know that Rob and I never pregame about these reviews, and we never pre-think about who we're going to reference for our reviews. No. And I got to be honest, I think this is one of our finest.
It's one of our finest moments.
I want Captain Lou and William Lee Golden.
I mean, I want a new T-shirt that's Captain Lou and William
Lee Golden,
and it says "Too much beard."
I mean, there's very few people who know who those gentlemen are, and I'm including Captain Lou's entire crew of the ship he must sail, and the Lee Golden family. The other Oak Ridge Boys are at a loss. Anyway. That's our review, and we stand behind it.
Well, continuing with the fun, we've got a great interview happening today.
Yeah, the speaking of captains, the captain of this ship. I mean, what an unbelievable episode he had to helm, and the moments of beauty and poignancy in the episode can't not be ignored. It's not that this is not a great episode. No. It's almost, to Rob's point, there was too much to wrestle to make it a Stapleton-Loggins combo.
But we can't wait to talk to him about obviously the sex scene, but that scene at the end with Jensen. And that scene at the end with Jensen and the face-off angels and demons and all that stuff. So let's get into it. Our returning guest, J. Miller Tobin, is back with us, and he directed 4 episodes of Supernatural in the first 5 seasons. Most recently, he's directed episodes of CW's Tom Swift and ABC's Emergence. Welcome back, J. Miller Tobin. Hey, Miller.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me back. I love being here.
Oh, dude.
Love having you.
I mean, we had to have you because there's so much. We didn't have a choice. Like, our hands are tied. There's so much going on. Okay, so Rob and I were talking about, this is the first Supernatural back-to-back legit to be continued episodes. Like, you have the second part of a 2-parter.
Exactly.
So one of the questions I have is, how much did that play? Did you have to have any dialogue with the previous director? Was there anything that you had to sort of
like Charles Beeson actually directed.
It was
I'm not saying the right thing. Yeah, did you and Beeson have to powwow on anything, or no? Was it
not really, because there was a pretty clear handover. What did happen was that I inherited all of the stuff that he had set up.
Right.
But I was sort of tracking his episode and tracking him, and I mean, we didn't sit down and have a long heart to heart, but I would stop by set and he'd say, "This is what we're doing," but they built the barn from scratch. They built a silo from scratch. Right. There was a lot of that. A lot of those design choices had already been made, but we talked through how he was going to use them and what we were going to do. So there was a little overlap. There was a little segue there, but his episode was still fairly distinct from mine. I got all the big payoffs, thank goodness. So,
right.
But again, a lot of that, mostly it was about the sets and not so much locations, because there was the 2 huge sets.
And that was new. That was new territory for Supernatural, because they weren't doing that.
Completely. That was the barn was brand new, and the silo was brand new, and they were both. Yeah. Well, I guess they were built for that run of shows. Yeah.
Was that on a stage?
Yeah, they were all on stage. Yeah.
And you also had, the cast of Spartacus in this thing. I mean, I don't mean one line people. I'm talking about massive.
Oh yeah.
Big characters played by big established actors. You had a lot of moving
Robert
parts.
Wisdom, Julie McNiven. I mean, they were all amazing.
Mark Ralston, who's so good. Did you?
Yeah.
You inherited all them, right? Because
they all came through the pipeline. I mean, yeah, Julie had already been cast.
Yeah, I wondered if maybe because you were so involved in, she's so obviously key in your episode and in Charles' episode, if you were involved in her casting process at all. But
No, that was all done by the time I got there. I mean, I started prep when Charles started shooting, so that all of those decisions have been made. But listen, again, this has all been vetted by Kripke and company. So there was, what was I going to do? Complain? I mean, these are brilliant. These are wonderful.
Well,
actors.
Supernatural continues. I always, Rob and I always feel like a little bit like jerks saying this since we are beneficiaries of the great guest star casting of the show. But Supernatural, their track record of nailing it with unbelievable performers in guest star roles and supporting roles is practically unmatched until you get to The Sopranos. I mean, literally, It's baffling how good and the caliber of people, recognizable names and faces. And
well, again, I think Robert Wisdom. I mean, Julie McNiven is honestly one of my, except for you two, of course, was one of my absolutely favorite top guest stars. I mean, who in the world better to play a fallen angel than Julie McNiven? I mean, she's
so good.
Brilliant.
Totally.
She's really brilliant.
Yeah.
And just, and stunningly beautiful and ethereal and just, she literally is like an angel on earth, and which is obviously the point.
Right.
So it was, she's a joy to work with. She was so much fun to work with. Just a pleasure.
Yeah. Agreed.
So yeah, I mean, again, I was on the downhill slide of all that. I just got all the wonderful benefit of having all of those people,
already done.
Well, we're talking about Julie and how beautiful it is. So, Rob,
well, you believe it or not, this is written down as a question to ask, but I was curious. So we've got a sex scene. We have a sex scene in this episode, and it to me it wasn't. And you may not know the answer to this, but it didn't seem typical Supernatural to do a sex scene like that. In the previous episode, there's one as well, where you really stay on it. You've got shots of the, a naked thigh or whatever.
Mine or the other one?
I'm talking about yours.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, it felt like, do you think that was something that was coming from studio? Like, hey, we need to have
the boys need to hook up.
It's not like he kisses her and then we fade out and fade in post-coital kind of thing. It's like there. We haven't actually, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I honestly don't remember what the genesis of it was. It must have come from, again, the writer's room, because I remember the overriding idea of all of that was that this was their last night on Earth, right? I mean, it was going to be, it wasn't a typical, we meet somebody at a bar and have a night together. This was, we're all going to die tomorrow,
right? And
so that to prolong that, because it is unusual for Supernatural, you don't generally have long prolonged sex scenes like that. I mean, there are a couple here scattered here and there, but not really. That's not really the theme of the show,
right?
But again, with the idea that, especially for Anna, that she's going to die, and it's very entirely possible that Sam and Dean were going to die. I mean, again, this was the angel demon, face off, which we get into later, the sort of, Western in the barn kind of thing, that this, high noon moment. Right. But the whole point of it was, this could be it. This could be it for especially for her. I mean, I don't think anybody watching this show thought we were going to kill Sam or Dean, although we did actually kill them a number of times. But
we tried, damn it, we tried.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think the idea was really to prolong that moment of earthly pleasure again for Anna as an angel, discovering her angel heritage,
right? But
having come to Earth to invest herself in human emotion, human, physicality, human, so that for her, it was sort of the pinnacle of that journey.
And how do you shoot that? Does the car come apart?
We shot all of the pieces up to on location, including the hand shot, which I'll talk about in a second, the hand against the window. And they, how many cars did they have? They had like 30 Impala or something, but it cut one in half for us.
Wow.
And that was on stage. So it made it a lot easier, obviously. But you can tell it's essentially the whole thing is shot from one angle. It's, from the front seat looking to the back seat.
And I feel like, there's obviously some Titanic-ian elements to that. How much of that was dictated by the script and how much of that was creative Miller?
Well, interestingly enough, the way it was shot was me, I think, pretty much, and I had shot scenes similar to this for Gossip Girl and other shows. So you're always dancing around how much you can see, how much you can't see. You want to make it feel sexy, you want to make it feel real. In this case, we wanted it to feel romantic,
right?
Above it, beyond anything else. So there was a lot of shots of the two of them, their faces, and all of that, beyond hands on legs and stuff like that. But the hand on the window shot was in the script. And I read somewhere later, I can't remember where, that Kripke hated it, but it stayed. or wasn't thrilled. Like it was too much of a quote,
right?
Basically,
right.
is I hated it. It's a wrong word. I don't know. But he was very ambivalent about the idea that they would actually had gone as far as quoting Titanic.
Right. Yeah.
But it was there. We shot it. He didn't pull it out. He put it in the
it's
show.
there.
So
I don't know
and the script is written by him. This script is actually written by him. So it's probably Eric going like, who thought of that? Oh, that's crazy.
So I was going to say that I'm struck by this in your journey as director on the show and I know you just said that you'd done several sequences that were similar, but it was new to Supernatural. Like getting an intense sex scene like this for Dean. There had been one in season 1 that was kind of like, and then they went away from that. Then Jared had his own sex scene earlier and ended up marrying the woman. And then this was sort of Jensen or Dean's return to that sort of vibe. And, and then you had also you also were sort of breaking ground in sort of many episodes ago in the Alona Tall episode of her getting, the sort of physicality that went on with that episode. You were handed some sensitive material. And even though a sex scene, and this is consenting angel and human, and it's a romantic scene, nonetheless, from an actor-director standpoint, it's still a sensitive thing to address and approach. So what is that like? Like you obviously are good at it. You've done it on other shows. You've done the dark version. Now you're doing the light version. From a professional Miller standpoint, how do you go into these kind of sequences and how do you approach it?
Because that's a very good question. I mean, we shot this long enough ago that it was pre-intimacy coordinators, pre all of that. So there's a little less scrutiny on this stuff. But I always approach it by sitting down, talking to actors, and saying, "This is what the story we're trying to tell. Like this is where we need to get to. You guys help me figure out how we can do that and make everybody feel comfortable." So again, for me, it's about starting with the end result in the sense of we want to get to this point story-wise.
Right.
These are the elements that I would like to do visually or, physically. How can you guys help me choreograph that? And I really rely on the actors at that point. I mean, again, you're dealing with, Jensen and Julie. It was fine. Sometimes you shoot a scene like that and the actors are like, let us just do it. We'll find it. Or sometimes you work with actors and they're like, just stand by the camera and tell us exactly what to do.
Right.
Stick your hand on my ass. Say, just yell at us while we're doing this. Because we know the music's going to play over this.
Right.
Right.
We know, just tell us what to do. And other actors are like, we'll find it. And this was somewhere in the middle, as I recall. Again, I don't remember exactly. But we had definitely choreographed or discussed certain positions, like Dean on his back initially, or Dean on, her on her back initially, him taking off his shirt. Everybody wanted to see Dean with his shirt off. There were certain elements that you knew were going to be sort of important to the sequence. And the flip side of that is when she was on top and just seeing how, again, just ethereal lighting, beautiful lighting, making her look gorgeous, and then nose to nose. I mean, again, that was really the moment. And this is a romantic thing for Dean. That was the other sort of element in this. There's actually a lot of emotion in this. Yeah.
Right.
There is. There's a sensitivity and a gentleness you see in Dean that you don't see in other sequences, in other elements with him.
Julie, as an actress, inspired that in Jensen, if I can speak for him, as Anna did for Dean. I mean, there's a really nice connection and bond between the two of them, both,
that's cool
as character actors. I mean, they're, again, total pros. No.
And I want to kind of explain this to our people who listen and are not in the industry. So, because you had referenced intimacy coordinators, and just so folks know, now in any set, that kind of scene, there'd be a person who is a designated representative of intimacy, right? I mean, they're there to be the sounding board for the actors and be the go-between between you and the performer, I suppose, or be there. I mean, how would you describe that?
Yeah, I mean, again, I did a very simple, even simple kisses. Now you generally have a coordinator on set, and it's primarily to protect the actors. There's been many instances where actresses specifically on set have been goaded into doing things that they weren't necessarily comfortable with, and so there's been a push towards creating a safer environment for shooting. and for actresses. And so all of those things are discussed up front. Generally, they're very choreographed. You agree in advance what's going to happen. And again, it's on Tom Swift, I had a kiss in the doorway. It was very, as far as I was concerned, very straightforward, but we had a coordinator on set. And again, I approached it exactly the way I always do, which is, this is the story we have to tell. We have to get to this moment in terms of seeing this emotion on screen. That emotion is being portrayed physically. So how do we get there? And, the actors were fine. They were totally cool. And it was not a non-issue, but we did have that third party.
Right.
There.
Well, I think that position, if I may sort of pat you on the back, that position was not created because of the Miller Tobins of the world. That position was created because of the lack of Miller Tobins. You know what I mean? Like, you were the kind of director, you've directed me, we've interviewed you a bunch, we know you as a guy. You're going to come in, A, prepared, and B, sensitive to what you're doing.
Well, I like actors, so that's
yeah. And
no, seriously though, that goes a long way.
Everybody does,
Not everybody does.
I mean, but I'd say like that's so. I think it's really cool that you have gotten. That's why I brought up the other episode. You've been handed really tough material. It's people.
Yeah.
People think, making out with hot people making out that's got to be fun. It can also be incredibly awkward. It could be. It's very medicinal and antiseptic trying to get these things with a crew of people and not kill the vibe of the whole story. Anyway, you do a great job with it. It's a great scene.
Well, and along that same line, what was it like then shooting the torture scene with Genevieve? Because to me, that's also very sensitive. And
ironically, I remember that being harder.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not fun.
No, it's not.
To strap someone to a table with no shirt on and
exactly that whole sequence, that whole table, that it was designed basically to make her naked and still be whatever censorship safe or whatever
right
network safe. But yeah, I mean, basically the banding across her chest and the, banding across her waist.
Her arms are out like that.
I mean, very specifically designed so that it was clear that she was naked and yet covered enough so that we could air it. But I mean, making her feel completely and utterly vulnerable. Again, that was the story point. We just wanted to make it feel as if she had no control in the situation at all, which she didn't, obviously. But, but the idea that she was naked made her even more vulnerable. And again, Genevieve was amazing. She didn't. Yeah. You can tell from watching this. She didn't back down. She didn't shy away from any of that. I mean, it was. But that for me was much harder to shoot and choreograph.
Sure, I can see why.
Because I mean, when she started screaming, it just made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I mean, it was really
especially muffled like that too. That's
that horrible mask that she had on. That was a real thing. That was a leather mask that had been created to fit her face. I mean, that was not
right.
Yeah. She didn't bring that from home. You know what I mean? That was pure supernatural.
Yeah, she didn't say actually I travel with my own
blood-soaked leather mask.
Just hold that thought. We're coming right back.
Hey, this is Richard Spate. You know what? It's 2024. It's a brand new year, and I bet you made some New Year's resolutions, and I bet one of them was to eat healthier. Well, you can get cranking on that resolution right now, my friend, with Factor. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, the prep work, the cooking fatigue. I'm getting tired just talking about it. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan, and veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, you will have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart this resolution off right. Forget frantic lunch prep and rush dinner making. That stinks. Factor's 2-minute meals, yes, I said 2 minutes, are your secret weapon in the new year. You get to fuel up fast with restaurant-quality meals all delivered right to your door. It doesn't get any easier than that. And Factor now offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, snacks, and more to keep you going no matter what's on the schedule. So I know what you're asking, Rich, how do I tap into this Factor magic? You head to factormeals.com/SPN1050 and use code SPN1050 to get 50% off. That's a lot off. That's code SPN1050, at factormeals.com/SPN1050 for 50% off. Make that resolution happen now and make it happen at a discount. Fantastic food that's healthy and delicious and delivered right to my door. Now that is how you start the new year off right.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. And now back to the episode. So this script was written by Kripke. Is it different when it's a Kripke script? Was he on set at all?
Don't think he was. He came up a couple of times. But didn't stay very long. He would generally come up and meet with the actors and sort of check
Right.
everybody, but he didn't spend a lot of time on set. I don't remember if he was there for this episode. He certainly wasn't on set for any extended period of time. Is that right?
Right. Was it, I worked on The Boys this last season. Was it, and I noticed that it was very much like everything everyone said, from the director to the wardrobe designer to even in post. It was like, well, this is coming from Eric, because Eric's very much, when he's running a show, he's very much, which I found kind of fascinating, kind of fun, because it was all like, and they would always say it as if I don't know Eric, but like, this is coming from Eric, just so you know.
It was absolutely the final word. The other thing that was kind of interesting about this season and this show was that there was an interim production team. Richard, I don't know if you remember this, but it was Val and somebody.
Yeah, they took over for Cyrus, and they, my understanding is, not beloved.
And there was a lot of there's a lot of back and forth that year about budgets.
Right.
And I, again, talk about inheriting a show. I inherited an episode that was already in the hole because of all the building they had done, all the construction they had done for the first episode, into the half of the show. So I went into this episode with a deficit as far as they were concerned. So there was a lot of pushback on shooting time and all, and there was just a big push to get us back on track. And it ultimately affected the barn scene because we had shot listed what was on the page, and we knew it was going to be a long day. We knew it was going to be probably a 13-hour day, maybe a 14-hour day. And then like halfway into the shooting day, Val comes in and says, we can't go past 12. Like, you have to figure it out. And so at that point, I did get on the phone with Kripke. I do remember that. I got on the phone with him and said, listen, we're not going to be able to do what we had planned or what's on the page. How do we tighten this up? And there was sort of another section to the fight that, between the angels and the demons that we just kind of lifted in whole. Nobody watching the show now would notice, but there was a slightly more extended fight that was originally on the page.
Oh, gotcha.
Wow. But again,
well, let's talk about that barn showdown a little bit more. So what you'd mentioned sort of a high noon aspect to it. Was that
the premise. It was okay. What is it? Something at OK
Showdown at the OK Corral.
It was the two teams. I mean, these are our two, big bad teams, angels are dicks, demons are demons. But here we are when they're going to have this big face off, in the barn. And it was scripted as and conceived as, an old school showdown.
I love it.
And, all of the blocking of the fight. Again, we had Lou as our coordinator, of course. So the fight blocking was amazing. And the two demon guys were both professional stuntmen, and Robert Wisdom, who actually worked with, ironically, on The Agency. That was I did a whole episode with him on The Agency.
Oh, that's right. You did that one in the old hotel, right?
Yeah, it was cool. He's an interesting guy. He's such an imposing presence.
Yeah. I loved him in Barry. He's great in Barry. So the thing that I found fascinating about that scene is that because angels and demons are still new to the show, you're still going, okay, what's the rule book? And you got to see that the angels, like by pressing their hand against the heads of the demons, or somehow can kill demon. Yeah. Literally kill them that way. Right?
Really burn them out, I guess is sort of
right.
I remember talking to sort of thinking about the design of that, or what that was going to look like, because that was fairly early on in terms of that.
Yeah, and even Rob, to your point, Rob, the standoff has this sort of like, as a viewer, you're like, okay, who are the bad guys? Because they're both, it's like everybody's a jerk in the room. You're like,
yeah,
Anna, who's our
right.
Our hero, and that's supernatural to a T. The angels aren't necessarily angels. It's all
not at all.
Well, and I thought about it last night too. I was thinking, especially because Eric wrote this episode, like there's an element that carries on into The Boys where the superheroes aren't the good guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's that same kind of thing.
You're not wrong. I also, just from an execution standpoint, Holy smokes, you had a lot of people in that room.
A lot of people, a lot going on
Dude,
there. Yeah.
I'm sure you're like, all right, now it's time for our singles.
That's
We're going alphabetical order. I mean, good Lord, there's so much going on.
yeah, that was one that required some planning.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, especially when them breathing down your neck about, and you have to be done at midnight.
Yeah. That was a tough day. I would definitely remember.
Now that's like an amazing accomplishment, and then we move to another amazing accomplishment in this episode, which is on the face simpler, but just so complex in its performance. Is that last scene with
Dean,
with Sam and Dean on the car? And you've talked about this before, but I would like you just to take it from here. Tell us about what that was, and how it came to be.
Well, it was, I mean, again, this was all on the page, initially, but we knew, I mean, everybody knew what a big moment this was going to be, because we've been referencing hell and what happened in hell. And Dean was clearly, ambivalence, not the right strong word. He was clearly torn about what had happened. And then, we start hearing these references about what he did or might not have done. So there's a lot of sort of stuff that's sort of filtered in advance. Listen, honestly, this is one of my favorite scenes I've ever shot. I just think Jensen was beyond brilliant in this scene. That said, I can't take credit for it. I mean, he walked in, locked and loaded. He said, we had talked, in advance. We had been it was one of the later things that we shot, as I recall. So we had some time to talk about it, and we all knew what a big moment it was going to be. It was going to be a huge moment. We shot it first thing in the morning. We got the boys out in the car. I wanted to keep the blocking super, super simple so that there wasn't a lot of choreography or movement that Jensen could really do it. And he when he got there first thing that morning, he pulled me inside and said, I need to shoot my close up first, because I'm going to come in ready. And so the shot that takes everybody's breath away, or when tears are rolling down his face, that was literally the first take of the first shot of the top of the day. We got everything set up. We blocked it. He went away. When it was time, he walked in, sat down on that car, and we shot the 2 close-ups like right out of the gate. And that's what he did. That's what he brought, into set that morning. And then we worked our way back. Then we normally you'd start wide. And for people who normally when you're shooting, you start wide and you work your way in. And that generally works because it allows the actors to warm up and they get more used to the scene and they feel better about it. And there's more comfort and the lines get stronger and the performances get better. It's a little bit of a rehearsal on camera. And then by the time you get to the close-ups, everybody's comfortable with what they're doing. And they've run it times, hopefully without wearing them out, without exhausting everybody. In this case, it was, again, all Jensen. He just said, I got to shoot this up front. I don't know how long I can hang on to this. So let's get it right. And we did. We just nailed it. I mean, there was just absolutely.
And, it's a masterclass in performance by Jensen. It really is. And it speaks to his talent. Again, why Jared and Jensen were the tent poles of that show and made it so great was they have that, and they have that skill set. Like Jensen had that skill set to do that scene. And plenty of actors couldn't go that deep, that fast, that emotional. Like it was intense what he pulled off.
And also because, again, this is not to denigrate anything, the show or any of the actors, but, the Supernatural is not structured with moments like that very often, right? It's not something that's called upon for Jensen as an actor. He wasn't called, there's a rhythm to the show that is very consistent. Mm-hmm. It would have been easy for them to fall into that. But every time those guys were asked to step up to the plate, like this one, there was no question that they were going to.
Right. And I think that's the thing. It's like when you audition for Dean, this wasn't the scene he read with. You know what I mean? Like, so they never tested these waters. And so to get that, serve this up, to write it up, for Kip Key to put it on the page and you to set it up to shoot, Jensen just delivered in a massive way. But I also, again, what you say you had nothing to do with it, but you know what you didn't do? You didn't get in the way. You didn't create obstacles for the actors. You knew what was going to be required. You knew what the end game was, and how do you create the path of least resistance for a performer?
Well, how do you? How do you let your actors do their best work? In this case, you're right. It was me getting out of the way and saying, "Okay, set up. We'll do the close up. Whatever you need. Tell me what you need."
And I gotta. I don't know if this is on purpose, if it was happy accident, but I tip my cap to you on that final frame. That final frame, when Jensen's looking camera left, Jared's looking camera right, and the frame is perfect. They're both breaching a little bit of the frame line. Like, that's the poster of the whole series. that happens in this moment of the emotion of both of the brothers, and even Jared kind of looking forlorn at his brother while his brother's looking down, embracing his memory. It's an unbelievable portrait you created with that frame. And I love the fact that you did not ever throw focus to Jared, that you kept the focus on Dean in the foreground the whole time.
I knew we wanted to, at some point, to have them both in the same frame. So that blocking was, I mean, again, we worked it out together, but that was what I had in mind, so that we could be on Jensen in the foreground and have Jared's reaction, clear as day in the background. So you never lost what either of them was feeling. And that was really important.
Did you ever think about going back and forth? Because you didn't, and I think it's better that you didn't. But did you wrestle with that at all?
I'm sure, I have to believe that we probably did. And those, sometimes you try versions of that, but also, again, this is a point where, there was only a limited amount of time before Jensen got tired. And I don't say that, again, I say that as respectfully, in the sense that an actor can't maintain that kind of emotion for indefinite periods of time. And you certainly, it's very hard to dip in and dip out of that. Like, you can't get yourself to that place and then come back out and try to go back into that place, which is so, I guess my instinct was always to try to tie them together. And we may have done a rack focus pass of that. I just don't remember, but
where you landed was great, man. It's great.
Yeah. Again, it's one of my scenes that I'm proudest of. But again, I feel like I just get to, sign my name at the bottom and go home.
But I'm telling you, that's why your talent is valuable in a scene like that, because you're smart enough to know what not to do.
Right.
Seriously,
right.
I'm dead serious. If you'd gotten there and you had an actor who was phoning it in, and you're like, well, this is a shit show, you would have broken it apart and done something different. You would have figured out a way to have the camera create the emotion.
Cut to waterworks.
Yeah.
Just cut to just a faucet.
Spritz.
Primarily because we've never seen Dean like that before, ever. And probably almost never since. I mean, that was that was really a unique moment for the show.
Well, it's a beautiful piece of acting by Jensen and Jared. Jared's right in the pocket.
Jared's great in it too. Yeah.
It's why those guys, again, like I said at the beginning of this question, it's why those guys were the anchor of this show.
Amazing. Jared's face. We were talking about Jensen. I don't want to take anything away from Jared, because you see the depth of emotion and sympathy and empathy that he's feeling for his brother at that point. I mean, it's just on his face. He hardly says a word.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just right there. It's just all over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Iconic. Yeah. I think the word iconic is appropriate for that scene and that final frame.
Yeah.
Just stunning work.
And I didn't know it was coming. I wasn't expecting it. So I was like, oh, here we go. It's just another sort of wrap up. Like, well, that was tough.
Yeah.
A couple of Marlboro Lights come out, a couple of Ice Cold Brews. Yeah. Roll credits.
Well, classic rock song. We're good to go. Right.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, it was really, really beautiful. Thank you so much for coming back and talking to us, Miller. It's
much fun.
Always a pleasure to
It's
to
always
talk
great,
to you.
man. You're so good at what you do. I know we always say this, but you just bring such a cool. You and Beeson, by the way, Charles Beeson, who did the first half, they really went with the all-star team to pull off these very complex episodes. But it's such a good episode, Miller, as always.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny. Rewatching it, I honestly had forgotten how many huge pieces were.
It's unbelievable. Rob and I reviewed the episodes, and the reviewing the A and B of these episodes, there's so much to unpack. It's almost like the summary is longer than the screenplay, trying to wrap it all up. But you did a great job. You did a great job with it.
Appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys having me back. This is a blast to talk about shows. It's really so much
fun.
We love having you
Anytime.
on. And we're going to love seeing you in the Snap Pea outfit of the karaoke stage in Jacksonville. It's very exciting. I'll call for your sizes later. I want to be sure
Yeah. And I'm going to start working on what song you're going to be singing.
Yeah, it's going to be great. This is going to be the bachelor party you never had. Thank you again for being here. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
This is Jared Padalecki stopping in to say hi and let you know that we've got to take a quick break. Thank you for supporting Supernatural then and now. And now, back to the show.
Man, I always love having Miller on. He's just cool as a cucumber, and is just such an intelligent guy. And holy smokes, can he remember the details from years ago?
I love it. I love him. I love how much he remembers. And he's, yes, our kind of guy. He's just a nice fella and super smart, and always a pleasure to talk to him.
Indeed. We'll have him back again, but great to get his insights on some remarkable scene work in that episode.
Absolutely. Really made me appreciate all of that, all those moments.
Indeed. But now...
Yeah?
It's time to turn our attention away from J. Miller Tobin.
Okay.
And over to mythology.
Supernatural came up with a fun definition and purpose for grace in its mythology. However, the role and purpose of grace can be interpreted in several ways in Christian scripture. Some common biblical interpretations that likely influenced Supernatural's definition of it likely included the following. Rich?
Grace is usually defined as undeserved favor. Grace cannot be earned. It is something that is given by God.
And it's something I'm never referred to at a party as underserved.
No, sir. By the way, is it something that can be given by God, or is it something that can be given by God?
Grace is the spontaneous, unmerited gift of the divine favor in the salvation of sinners, and the divine influence operating in individuals for their regeneration and sanctification. And that line I just said, thank God I never had to memorize.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
God's grace not only offers salvation, but also secures it.
I still don't understand what it is.
Neither do I.
Angel grace also plays a large role in the game Magic the Gathering. Yeah.
Go figure.
Yeah. Angel grace.
Well, Angel Grace Barlow, which is not her name. Anna Grace Barlow. That's her name.
And she played Lilith?
She plays Lilith in season 15.
Which episode?
Great episode. I directed her in 2 episodes, and she's just fantastic.
Which episodes?
One where Jake Abel plays 2 people.
Oh, that one. That's a great one. I saw that.
And then
I saw that.
where it's like a werewolf episode. You think it's a werewolf episode, and then it ends up being a Lilith episode. She reveals it's a really cool episode. I know I directed it, so I'm biased, but she's so good. She was just one of those, again, litany of guest stars who came in and just crushed it. But we'll get to talking about her in 10 years. For now, we'll stay focused on this.
Has she ever done a convention?
No. And now, Robert, quit gibbering. It's time for fun facts.
Heaven and Hell is a Black Sabbath album.
Black Sabbath is a Heaven and Hell album.
Did you know that?
I did not.
Yeah, me neither. The episode was originally titled Hell's Angels, but the show received a copyright infringement notice from the motorcycle club's Hell's Angels just a few days before airing. Wow.
You know who you don't want to piss off? The Hell's Angels.
No.
You know who holds a grudge? Hell's Angels.
Yeah.
You know who'll come stomp your face with a steel boot if you don't listen to them when they send a cease and desist letter?
Hell's Angels?
Hell's Angels lawyers.
Yeah, wow. Copyright infringement notice from Hell's Angels. Man, that's serious stuff. I didn't even want to talk about that.
In a deleted scene from the episode, Castiel and Uriel discuss the aftermath of Anna's escape. Uriel wants to kill Sam and Ruby in retribution, but Castiel reminds him that their superiors have ordered that they not be harmed. Uriel is angry and voices dissent. Castiel responds by warning him against disobedience for fear that he become like Anna.
Oh, wow.
And if he becomes like Anna, he's got to do it with Dean. And Robert Wisdom didn't want any of that. So he listened and shut his yap. Otherwise, he knew it was Impala o'clock for him.
That's wow, interesting. And also interesting, there's a full deleted scene because already this episode had too much beard.
Oh my God.
Like, man, there was more to pack in. Wow. Very interesting fun fact. You'll see the name Trevor Sands get story credit for this episode. Trevor is a screenwriter and friend of Kripke's. They were brainstorming on a different project, and they came upon the concept of an angel that had come to the earthly realm against the rules of heaven, and the main character would be the poor schmuck who fell in love with this girl, who would never be able to be a normal girlfriend for anyone.
Oh.
Wow.
Anna's parents are Amy and Rich. This is clearly a reference to Amy Gumenick and Richard Speight, 2 performers on the show Supernatural, one playing young Mary and one playing Gabriel, who went on to be revealed as playing Loki and the Trickster. Another theory, which is probably wrong, Another version that Eric Kripke says, which is probably wrong because what does Kripke know, is that the names Amy and Rich are actually a reference to Kripke's personal friends, Amy and Rich Wilkes. Rich Wilkes is the writer of Airheads, featuring Adam Sandler and Brendan Fraser. He also wrote Vin Diesel's XXX, which was sued by every cartoon ever because every liquor bottle in every cartoon has XXX on it, and this is clearly not what they meant. And also, Motley Crue's The Dirt.
Oh, The Dirt, yeah. Also, a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, I mean everybody, calls Vin Diesel's movie XXX Triple X. Triple X, that movie is called. Triple X.
Really?
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, there's been sequels. In the business, we call it a franchise.
You're making that up.
No, sir.
So what's the next one? Quadruple X?
It's X. It's 1X.
No, if it's all Roman numerals, smarty pants, what's the next one called?
Well, 1X would be, 19.
You.
X, it's Triple X State of the Union, and then Triple X Return of Xander Cage, and a short film, the final chapter, The Death of Xander Cage. Triple X State of the Union, Triple X Return of Xander Cage, and the short film, final chapter, Death of Xander Cage. Stylized as XXX and pronounced Triple X. There you have it.
Interesting.
Anybody?
I dozed off during the middle of that, but I'm sure it was great.
Well, let me just summarize for you. I was right.
All right, fine. Okay.
Anyway, well, that was fun. That was fun.
That was great.
Yeah.
You know what we've never had? We've never had a review that was too much beard. Like, this is groundbreaking for us, too.
It's a first. And a lot of people are going to talk about this. People are already talking about it.
Yeah. I'm talking about it right now.
Yeah. People are like, hey, I love that Too Much Beard episode. People are going to say. They're going to say episode 4. That's when we had the first Too Much Beard episode. That's what people are saying.
This is the one they're going to talk about when they talk about our reviews, which they don't do.
Exactly.
But if they were to, this would be on that list of things they would talk about.
That's right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you at the next one.
And enjoy listening to Elvira, My Baby's American Made, and all those Oak Ridge Boys hits.
And, Google any Cyndi Lauper video, and you'll see Captain Lou Albano.
And while you're at it, do like Rob did and Google XXX and just see what happens.
There you go. Now you're pronouncing it right. This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester, Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester, and Misha Collins as Castiel.
Guest stars included Robert Wisdom, Julie McNiven, Genevieve Cortese, Mark Ralston, and Tracy Dinwiddie.
Heaven and Hell was written by Eric Kripke, story by Trevor Sands, directed by J. Miller Tobin.
Editing by Tom McQuaid, music by Christopher Leonards.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
The original broadcast of this episode featured the following song, Ready for Love by Bad Company.
Yeah, it was great. All during the lovemaking.
Yeah, man.
This episode originally aired on November 20th, 2008. This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Speight Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
Ooh. What's up, buddy?
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at SPN Then and Now.
And become a member of the podcast at patreon.com/SPN Then and Now. It's just Castiel. He doesn't have the last name Winchester. Castiel Johnson. Heaven and Hell.
Did you say Castiel Winchester? I didn't even notice.
No.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Very few people who know who those gentlemen are. And I'm including Captain Lou's entire crew of the ship he must sail and the Lee Golden family.
Well, and producer Steve, who's looking at us like, you idiot. Angel Grace, in addition to being the actress who played Ruby in the final season of Supernatural.
Okay, both that's wrong. She played Lilith, and her name was Anna Grace. Grace is usually defined as underserved favor. Oh, no, that's right. Not underserved. Undeserved. Oops.
Underserved. XXX. This is going to be a scary thing to Google.
Yeah. I'm glad it's your phone.
Oh, man. XXX movie? No. XXX Vin Diesel movie. God help me on this result. Ooh, it's slow coming in. Okay. Whew.
Story Mill Media.